Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, another storm here in San Diego, and this one will be sticking around. How long can we expect to see this wet weather, and how much of an impact will it have on the long weekend? Plus, a Navy man is convicted of manslaughter while intoxicated after driving off the Coronado Bridge, killing 4 people in Chicano Park. How much time is he expected to serve? And a suspect is in custody charged with attempted murder after allegedly opening fire on a Hillcrest restaurant with customers and workers inside. Details on the investigation. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebone Monet. Another storm system has moved into San Diego and it's brought high winds with it. It started around 1 today, and since then rain has been coming down consistently in many areas across the county. Weather forecasters say it will be sticking around a while, and some parts of the county could see significant rainfall totals. A high wind warning for the mountains will remain in effect until early Saturday. We'll have a full report later in the newscast, but right now let's go out live to reporter Matt Hoffman. He's at the San Diego River in Mission Valley. Matt.
Yeah, Ebony, we're here in an area that's very, very prone to flooding, and that's the San Diego River right here in Mission Valley. And as you can see right now, it's really not raining too much. A little bit of drizzle. It was raining really, really hard earlier, but right now, not a lot. And now, so here behind me is the San Diego River, which usually hovers around 3 feet. But forecasters are predicting that that river could swell upwards of 14 feet due to the rain. Now, there is a flood warning in effect for here tomorrow. It means the river isn't flooding right now, but there is a good chance that it will soon. And the National Weather Service says it plans to issue a flood advisory for the rest of the county tomorrow.
The real rain doesn't come in until tonight after midnight. And then by 6 a.m., so during tomorrow morning's commute, we could see some heavy rain in San Diego, with the peak of that rain probably midday and during the afternoon hours. So the afternoon commute tomorrow will be an absolute mess. And that's when we probably will see the biggest impacts in terms of street flooding, small streams and creeks flooding, and then eventually, late in the day, even the San Diego River.
Yeah, and as you heard right there, expect the highways and freeways to be really congested tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. That's when it's really supposed to be coming down. And here, San Diego Fire Rescue says they're going to have their lifeguards out on patrol in high-prone flooding areas, which includes the San Diego River here in Mission Valley. Also, if you can't see water on the road, don't drive in it. San Diego Fire Rescue says water more than 2 feet can sweep away a car. Meantime, the National Weather Service says places in the mountains like Palomar and Mount Laguna, they could see 5 to 9 inches of rain tomorrow. That's a lot. Here in Mission Valley, it's really not coming down too hard right now, but that's going to change soon. Here in Mission Valley, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And Matt, it seems like we've gotten more than our fair share of rain this year. When you spoke to Alex Tardy earlier today, did you get any indication of just how much rain we've gotten so far this year?
Yeah, so Alex says usually we average around 10 inches of rain per season. And right now we're at about 9 inches, which is above more than what we're used to. And he says basically with these storms coming in this week, we will probably easily surpass our season total for this year and be well above the average.
A big change from last year. Thanks, Matt. We now know the identity of the man accused of opening fire on a Hillcrest restaurant. Police say 29-year-old Stefano Parker used a high-power rifle to shoot into the Asian bistro on University Avenue last night. Around 7, police received several phone calls of a man in a trench coat walking around with a gun. Police say shortly after, Parker walked up to the restaurant and began shooting inside and then walked away. Several people, employees included, were inside, but no one was hurt.
We'll stand together to denounce violence, and we will stand together to support our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community. I've directed our police department to conduct more frequent patrols of the Hillcrest community, and I will be working with representatives to find other ways to additionally bolster public safety.
Parker was arrested about an hour later. He's charged with 9 counts of attempted murder and is being held without bail. Parker is scheduled to be arraigned on Friday. No word on a possible motive. The Navy man who drove off the Coronado Bridge, killing 4 people in Chicano Park, is convicted of manslaughter.
Find the defendant, Richard Anthony Cipolio, guilty of the crime of vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated with ordinary negligence.
Today, a jury found 27-year-old Richard Cipolio guilty on 4 counts of manslaughter while driving intoxicated. In October of 2016, Cipolio was driving on a transition ramp back to Coronado. He became distracted and his truck flew off the ramp and landed in Chicano Park. The crash killed 4 people and injured several others. Cipolio faces up to 18 years in prison. He will be sentenced in April. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the fatal mass shooting at a high school in Parkland, Florida. Since that day, students around the nation rallied for gun control. Associated Press reporter Josh Rapogel shows us how the March for Our Lives movement first began.
Following the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, students like Emma Gonzalez and David Hogg became household names, helping organize hundreds of thousands to march. Behind the scenes, these siblings have spent the past year working with a dozen others to keep the grassroots gun control campaign going. Ryan and Matt Deitch put college on hold.
Like, I can't just go off to college and leave this all behind because, we are in the position to actually make a difference. We are in this position, and whether we ask for it or not, this is where we're at.
The movement born following a disappointing visit with lawmakers in Tallahassee and Washington.
Why vote to not hear the assault weapon ban bill?
I think it's, who are you guys with, Ashley?
Associated Press.
Take the camera off for him.
If they had pretended to be competent and that they were fighting for our lives, that they were working to protect us, March for Our Lives would have never have existed. But after that time in D.C. where we were exposed to the inner workings of our legislator, we realized that we had to do so much more, that we had to change the way that we looked at all of this.
The group, organized and led mostly by teenagers, has managed to receive 7-figure donations from celebrities and coordinated numerous PSAs on voting, including this one.
Nervous.
My first time.
With actors from the Avengers franchise.
And let our voices be heard.
The group claims credit for helping pass dozens of new laws in the months after the shooting.
Of March for Our Lives,
resulting in a Children's Peace Prize award awarded in South Africa by Desmond Tutu.
This community used to be such a small town with nothing going on, and now to have it be the epicenter of a movement, I think it's absolutely insane. I don't think anyone can truly explain the political journey we've been thrust onto.
A group determined to make its voice heard as the nation turns its attention to the 2020 presidential election. Josh Rapogel, The Associated Press, Parkland, Florida.
San Diego planners are launching a new online tool to gather feedback on future growth plans. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says they hope it will allow more people to take part in the planning process.
The new online tool is kind of like SimCity. Users can choose how and where to plan for more high-density housing in the coming decades. Planning Director Mike Hansen says the city will still engage residents in person through meetings and workshops.
But if that doesn't work out for your schedule or your lifestyle, perfectly fine then to go on your laptop or on your phone and provide us input if that better suits your schedule.
The tool will start with Claremont, which is undergoing an update to its 30-year-old community plan. The planning tool sets a goal for residents, zone for at least 5,000 new homes beyond what's currently allowed, and locate 40% of those homes near the new Mid-Coast Trolley, which will start serving the neighborhood's western edge in 2021. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
City officials this week halted a long-delayed project to revamp part of Balboa Park, and that could be good news for the park's other needs. The project would clear roads, cars from the Plaza de Panama and build an underground parking garage in Balboa Park. Construction bids came in way over budget, and that led to philanthropists to halt fundraising efforts and the mayor to put the project on hold. But the city had already set aside $10 million toward construction. City Councilman Chris Ward, whose district includes the park, says there's a long list of needs that money could go towards.
I see this as a real decent inflection point where we can start to work on an implementation plan for agreed upon maintenance and infrastructure improvements that the park desperately needs today.
City officials estimate in 2016 that it would cost between $80 and $120 million just to bring the park's facilities into good condition.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Congress and the White House inch closer to a deal to avoid another government shutdown. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A DMV blunder may be near a resolution. California motorists may soon get the IDs they paid for but never received. The DMV system error affected about 150,000 motorists. The agency previously sent renewal notices to drivers with expiring licenses earlier than usual, but the department's system was not able to process the payments. The DMV says the staff has addressed the issue, but the agency still remains under fire by lawmakers who say the glitch is part of a larger issue.
DMV treats customers as annoyances rather than paying customers. So there has to be a reimagining of their technology, of their customer service, and we also have to decentralize the DMV. We need to take more advantage of AAA and others who have technology that's work and modern.
The issue impacts customers who renewed their licenses online or by mail between September of last year and early February, with expiration dates between January 20th and May 31st. California renters may be getting a bigger tax credit. A bipartisan group of lawmakers is lobbying for the first major increase of renters' tax credit in 40 years. The credit would apply to single people who earn $41,000 or less and joint filers who make $83,000 or less. Households with children would receive a $434 credit. Renters without children would be eligible for a $220 credit. Lawmakers say this could make a huge difference for struggling families.
Clearly, we have a housing crisis, and it's going to take a multi-pronged strategy over a sustained period of time to address that. And this is one strategy that's actually very quickly can be implemented that's going to make a big, big difference.
The renter's credit was first established in 1972 and has not been increased since 1979. During that time, rents in California have nearly tripled since that time. California lawmakers are working to shed light on teen dating violence just ahead of Valentine's Day. They joined domestic violence survivor advocates at the Capitol today to promote healthy relationships for young couples. Lawmakers say there's a need to educate teens now as the dating landscape begins to take on a new form.
This is a new day, and dating relationships look different and people connect differently. And so the online options, young women really have to be empowered to know that they have a right to date who they want and what healthy dating relationships look like and what they don't look like.
According to a recent nationwide report, nearly 10% of high school students surveyed said they've been physically hurt by their boyfriend or girlfriend in the last year. This year marks the 75th anniversary of a deadly explosion that helped change the U.S. military. It happened at the Port Chicago Naval Magazine in the Bay Area. The blast killed more than 200 African-American soldiers who were ordered to load live munitions onto a cargo ship. There's a new exhibit about the incident. KQED Newsroom Tui Vu talks to the exhibit organizers.
Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Mary, you're also the president of the San Francisco Public Library Commission, and you've been working with the Treasure Island Museum on this exhibit. Take us back to that day in July 1944 when the explosion happened. What was the scene like?
Well, the scene was a terrible tragedy in so many ways. You had these very young men that were working in an environment that they were not prepared for, and they suffered the worst type of tragedy that you can ever imagine. And so the survivors of the Port Chicago essentially had said, we are not going to go back. At least 50 of them that was. And these were ordinary young men. They were between 18, maybe 21, 22 years old.
So young.
They were already in a segregated situation. Over 200 of the individuals that were lost were African-American sailors and other individuals. And so these 50 young black sailors who had everything to lose if they went back. They were afraid for their own safety. They saw their mates with dismembered bodies, were ordered to go back immediately while the white officers were given the proper grievance time off. And somehow or another, they were able to muster the courage and the solidarity to say, we will rather go and face court-martial with the United States Navy, which also meant that they, at that time, they could have been sentenced to death.
So, Walt, take us back to that era. Why were tasks like this, loading live munitions onto a ship, why were those types of tasks assigned primarily to black sailors?
Well, the Navy was segregated, and frankly, it was racist. These sailors had joined the Navy to go fight the enemy, and they were put to work doing manual labor loading these munitions. They were supervised by white officers who were under a lot of time pressure. They pushed the crews to work faster and faster, and then they bet with each other on which crew could load the most ammunition and punished the men if they lost the bet. It was a terrible situation.
And so, Mary, how did this protest by the 50 men eventually influence the Navy and eventually the entire military to desegregate?
Well, this is the story. This is a civil rights story that begins in San Francisco Bay Area that I don't think that people know about. We often think about Atlanta and other parts of the United States where the civil rights was born, but this 50 young men were really the ones that set the early precedents to the modern civil rights movement that we knew. And so essentially the Navy moved forward through this trial and after the trial to be the first branch of the military to begin desegregation. And under President Truman, he ordered thereby all the U.S. armed forces followed. And so essentially these 50 black sailors, ordinary young men facing all loss, gave an extraordinary contribution to racial justice and social justice in the United States, and it happened here.
Mary, what's the connection between those 50 men convicted 75 years ago to what you're seeing today?
Well, you know, one of the things is that justice does not happen in a vacuum. The arc of moral justice is really long, and it always bends towards righteousness. And these 50 men were essentially banded together in this act of solidarity. And it's connected directly to what we saw with Rosa Parks, connected directly to what we see today in Black Lives Matter, and even more recently, what we're seeing with Colin Kaepernick. You know, this whole idea of how do you stand up at a time when the society doesn't believe that necessarily what you believe is right. These 50 young men are directly connected to the young people that are here in the Bay Area, that are in Florida, that are all throughout the United States, that are saying this particular issue is not right.
It's certainly a story that still resonates today. Mary Wardell-Giroduzzi and Walt Bulofsky, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
You can see more of that interview at kqed.org. One local organization has spent years using films to address the right to die issues. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando explains the process and the reasons behind the movement.
The Hemlock Society of San Diego draws its name from Socrates, who accepted a death sentence of drinking poisonous hemlock. Faye Gersh founded the organization more than 30 years ago to address right-to-die issues.
We are the most active chapter in the country of the Hemlock Society, which believes that people should have a choice in how they die. They should die consistent with their own values, beliefs, and preferably the law.
One tool they employ to educate people is showing films about death and dying. The Leisure Seeker stars Donald Sutherland and Helen Mirren as an aging couple who decide to hit the road rather than die in a nursing home. The film screens Sunday at Mission Valley Library, followed by a discussion. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Once again, the film screens at 1:30 p.m. on Sunday at the Mission Valley Library and will be followed by a discussion. For more information, you can go to kpbs.org. A storm has officially hit San Diego, and the rain is coming down all around the county, and it isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Meteorologist Erin Calandra has more on what we can all expect.
Well, boy, are we seeing a soaker. Here's the satellite and radar for the last couple of hours. We had lots of cloud coverage. Heavier downpours are moving in. You can see to the north of us, it's even worse. They're getting heavy rain across San Francisco, mountain snow. Now, we have a series of storms moving in over the next couple of days, so it is going to remain awfully wet. For tonight in the metro, 57 degrees, rain, heavy at times. We're going to see some pretty heavy downpours. That's the case across the region. Ramona at 50 degrees, Mount Laguna at 46. The further east you go, like into the mountains and deserts, the less precipitation we're going to see. But the foothills, those interior areas, boy, we're going to get slammed. Oceanside at 55 degrees tonight with rain. And again, the heaviest of the rain dropping right across the coast and through the central part of the county. We will see some isolated flooding and also potential for mudslides, so be careful out there. It will be a cloudy, rainy day again tomorrow. El Cajon at 64, Chula Vista at 65, and San Diego coming in at 64 degrees. Borrego Springs also at 64. Here's the futurecast. This is Wednesday, tonight at 9 p.m., and it's still raining. It's going to continue for hours, and we will see pockets of heavy downpours. So here we are at 7 a.m. When the kiddos are heading out to the school bus stop, they are going to need those rain boots, umbrellas, and ponchos. And then at 10 a.m., wow, we get slammed with heavy rain. It's going to last for a few hours until finally everything tapers off Thursday night. As far as precipitation, impressive numbers. Here we are at 6 a.m. on Thursday. We're seeing about 1.5 inches of rain already in San Diego. When that heavy downpour comes, look at these numbers creeping up. Ramona, 6.25 inches of rain, El Cajon around 6, and close to 5 inches for San Diego. We need the rain, but too much all at once certainly causes problems. Here we are late week. We finally start to dry out. And taking a look at the extended forecast here for the coast, downpours, breezy, pretty yucky conditions through Friday. Saturday through Monday, we're in the 50s. Could see a brief shower on Sunday, but mostly sunny skies. Inland, we'll see wet conditions through Friday. The sun will be back by Saturday, and it will remain pretty cool in the 50s. Now in the mountains, we'll see a shower or two. Heavy rain Thursday. It will be chilly in the 30s for the weekend with some sunshine. And in the deserts, that rain will taper off on Thursday. We'll have sunshine the rest of the week, but it's going to be in the cooler side in the 60s. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
As most of us know, there are all kinds of unique professions, including a professional dog photographer. Marketplace producer Eliza Mills takes us behind the lens.
They say that if you smell a baby's head, that like you want to have a baby. I smell a baby's head and I'm dead inside. But I smell puppy paws and like everything inside of me just gets all mixed up and crazy. My name is Ellen Shershow, and I'm a 2- and 4-legged photographer. The very simplest thing that I do is I bring dogs into my studio and I photograph them. What I try and do is find what is special and unique about that dog, and then I try and bring it out in the photograph. And in my experience, every single dog is different. Their personality is as different as any human being. So a lot of it is just like sort of observing them and seeing how they react. I might bark like a dog, or I might meow like a cat, or make different squeaky noises with toys and see how they react to that. When I first began photographing, when I first began doing this job, the hardest thing for me was asking people for money, because it's such a fun job to do that I thought nobody should get paid for having this much fun. Like, that doesn't seem fair to all the other jobs in the world. But in fact, a lot of my day is doing other kinds of things, doing marketing, doing the sort of basic admin that it is to run a business. 70% of the time, I'm not actually photographing. I'm doing something else. I think the most important thing about being a pet photographer is patience. I've learned that the parents of dogs can be really sensitive to how their dog is behaving. So I just have to get into that part of myself that is extremely patient, because I know that I'm going to get what I want from the dog eventually. The end result of what I do, which for me is very important, is to create artwork that can hang in my client's home. And it can become something that will be around for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years and remind that person of that moment in their dog's life and by extension in their life.
Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, a NASA icon bites the dust, looking back at the life and career of Opportunity, the Mars rover, 15 years after it landed on the Red Planet. And on Midday Edition, when grad students and university retirees become roommates. And our California Dream Report, the goal that goes beyond lower rents. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.